perfect right now.
I'm so jealous of the palm trees and the beach. Oh, I would give anything to be there now.
Oh, yes.
We
I think,
my in-laws actually before all the coronavirus, all this hit, we were scheduled to go on a cruise to Alaska. We were going on an Alaskan cruise, and of course they canceled it because it was in May, and they gave us a refund. And so my mother-in-law was like, well, we can always do a cruise, or we can go to Hawaii. And I'm like, I want to go to Hawaii.
absolutely.
So we'll be out there soon after
Yay!
all
Let
this
me
is over.
know. Let me know.
Of course I will. Of course I will.
So I think I'm going to give it one more minute and then we'll go ahead and get started. And people that are joining us, they'll just join in. But I definitely want to be respectful of time and we'll go from there. But the plan is we're going to just talk through some things in terms of getting a pulse of where we are as it relates to Maui and the event industry, event and hospitality. And then definitely get some words of wisdom from the fabulous Chef Lee. We'll have her talk a little bit about her and what she's doing. And I'm super excited for later in the time where we're going to give away a drawing because she's doing an amazing pop-up restaurant and she can talk about that more specifically. But that's one of the, sorry, Patricia. But we're definitely going to give that away. But we'll be thinking of you. And then she can talk about that. But I'm super excited because I know I'm going. I got my ticket. So so that should be fun. Hi, Naomi. How are you? So let me add one more name and then we'll go ahead and get started. And let me say goodbye to my music. Hold on. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. All right, can you see my desktop? Okay, awesome. So let me go down here. All right, everybody can see that?
Yes, ma'am.
Cool. Okay, so what's next? So I'm sharing with Chef Lee that one of the things that I was noticing, especially in particular because I am in the events and hospitality industry, is that, I was seeing a lot of great posts from people that were doing an amazing job of pivoting and seeing all the stuff that they're doing. I was looking at Chef Lee's posts. I was looking at different entertainment companies, DJs that were really doing, shifting to that virtual world. But I didn't see a whole lot of like coming together, let's talking about strategies. And so, and I saw a few things and I just wanted to kind of have an open forum where we could, share best practices and make sure that, as a group, we were unified. And Chef Lee had shared the story earlier about, just even talking to the mayor, it's kind of like, oh, somebody should do something or somebody should say something to the mayor. And so she stepped up to the plate and, representing not only herself, but then also the community at large in terms of, hey, this is how this is impacting us. This is how I know we can make this safe. Let's, come together and work this out. So that's essentially what this has led to. It was a one-time thing, and I did some kind of soul searching, and I actually want to make this a series, and I have made this a series. So every month, we're going to have different things. Next month, I'm confirming the guest speaker, but we're going to have someone in the entertainment side of things that it's doing a pivot. So Chef Lee, if you got some people, I've got a few feelers out already, but if you want to talk to me offline about who you think might be good for next month, just let me know. All of you know who I am, and I'll talk a little bit about me. But before I do that, 60 seconds or less, I want to hear about you. Tell me about you. And if somebody were to meet you in the elevator, what would be your elevator speech? everyone except for Chef Lee, because I want to save her special introduction until later. But if everyone could kind of share, who you are, where you are, just a little bit about, so we get to know you and, what you're looking to get out of this presentation. So Patricia, I'll start with you. Up.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you, Latasha. So a little bit about me, born and raised here. I am in Denver, Colorado. I am a Denver native, which is very rare. I love it here. I've been here obviously all my life, and I met my husband here, and we just got married. It'll be 3 years in August, and Latasha was our wedding planner. So that's a new journey for me, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. And for work, I am a corporate trainer. I currently work for a law firm based here in Colorado, Backus and Schenker. And I am the head of people training over there. So I've been in the process of implementing some training for the firm, and as they have none. And so I've been in training and development for well over 20 years. Well, I'm not going to say well over 20 years, about 22 years that I've been doing this. And it's my passion is people and development and learning and meeting new people and seeing them develop and grow. So that's a little bit about me. And I'm a diehard Broncos fan, and I ride a Harley.
She's a Harley mama. So if I can find it, I'll have to show you. We had some amazing shots of them having their exit in their Harleys downtown Denver. It was epic. So it was awesome.
Sweet.
So
Yeah.
Thank you. Sasha?
Thank you.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi. So I'm born and raised in Hawaii. I'm a wedding photographer. Love shooting weddings. I'm starting over. I've been in business for a long time, but I'm kind of in that stage where I'm rediscovering like who I am as an artist. And I'm just like rediscovering art and shooting film and just kind of going back to the roots. And so that's where I'm at right now. But I'm just like hanging out with my kids and trying to figure out what to do next. How to get business, and if I should even stay on Maui. I'm kind of thinking about leaving the island. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Gotcha. It's okay.
Yeah.
We all are where we are.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Okay.
Miss Courtney.
Hi everyone, I'm Courtney. I'm born and raised on Maui, left for college in Seattle, and ended up back here on Maui for a job. I did a Skype interview actually. That was my first ever Skype thing. Who would have known this is the world we're in now, 10 years later. But yeah, so I work for Big Brothers Big Sisters. I'm the regional director. And that's how I know Latasha. She's our board president and does so many great things for us and helps us with all of our events. And so I'm just here today to see kind of what's going on in that world, because we need to come up with a plan of what we're going to do if we want to stay afloat. And yeah, so I just love what I do for a living, and I have a 2-year-old and a husband, and thank goodness for them because they're getting me through this crazy time. So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. And then Naomi, do you want to take a minute and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi. I see some places that I know. Yeah. So I grew up in Tokyo. I moved here 7 years ago and met my husband here, came here for kiting for the wind. And then I still am a part of the wedding company as a day of coordinator. And Sasha and I have worked on a few weddings there at Karma Hills Simple Maui Wedding. But I have 2 businesses. One is a retreat organizing. So I'm planning a few retreats for some people Not here, on mainland, and those have, some of them have converted to online virtual events, and then others are also going forth with retreats that are less than 10 people at the moment, but everything is always up in the air with local regulations with the COVID. Then my other business is, with my husband, is a mobile pizza oven. So Natasha Ada has tasted our pizza. So we've been
It's
practicing.
good.
And as soon as our mobile oven is done, we are ready to go. So I'm jumping on this call to see, I guess as a food provider, what are sanitation requirements or, sanitation practices that we can best practice for all the safety. My main question is, how can we serve pizza in the most safest way possible? Because we're kind of like a buffet, pick and choose type. So I guess that would be my main question to cover later. The
Awesome.
pizza and retreats are my jam.
Awesome. And Miss Beta, how are you?
Doing good. Hello, everyone. I'm Tsveta. I'm originally Bulgarian. I moved to Maui 2006. And I'm a florist. I've been working with Latasha on many projects, and it's always been a delight. And at the moment, well, we'll see what happens. Like my passion was always being flowers, and I like to stylize and make everything pretty, but food is also being like my other passion, if I could say. And since last year, I had that idea that I really wanted to start growing and curating like a mixture of edible flowers for weddings, events, chefs, and I'm kind of taking on that direction in a moment, since I've never really have a time to pursue that direction before, with all the work involved with running the flower business. But the garden is looking great, things are coming, and so we'll see. I don't know if it's the right time, but I'm very excited because it's pretty much combining my two passions for food and stylizing and flowers.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And so if others will probably join us later, and we're going to keep on going. So question, we talked about this a little bit. Some of you have mentioned it in your opening, but if there's any other specific questions that you have, if you want to type them in the chat box, and then that way, once we start talking, I'll make sure I circle back on those to make sure that we get all of your questions answered. And so about me, most of you already know, I'm not going to go through a whole thing, but pretty much I am the owner and lead designer of Little Details LLC. It started in Denver, Colorado. And prior to event planning, I've been in the business for over 20 years, actually over 25 now. I had a previous life of business development, marketing, enterprise excellence, which is basically a safety health instructor of all things. And then I was also a middle school and high school teacher, so English literature, British literature, creative writing, persuasive writing. And so it's been actually really great to have that background in terms of business development, marketing, and education. And so as a planner, and I know Chef Lee knows this very well, you've got to be very articulate, and you've got to really, communicate effectively, which all of you know, with your clients, and having that marketing background, marketing my business and doing the different things that I've been able to do. It's actually been a godsend to have those skills. So that's a little bit about me. And so I stole this from Chef Lee's website, but essentially she's amazing. And I knew of her or became aware of her through a dear friend of mine, Shay. And she just went on and on about Chef Lee. And so I actually went to one of your dinners, and I was just blown away by not only and this was 4 years ago when I first moved here, I love your location, super excited about tomorrow, and just loved everything that I heard about you. And so I was just like, when I was thinking about, you know, who to ask for this part of the segment, you were just top of mind. So looking at your bio and all that you've accomplished, and, you know, your amazing, amazing beach location, just kudos to you. And I just want to have you take some time and share with us. And we have your bio in front of us, but just share a little bit about you, and then we're going to get into it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here. I wish it were under slightly different conditions, but I'm excited to be able to give people the confidence and the hope that we are going to get through this. And there are things that we can do to make that happen. We just have to be smart about it. I have been in the food industry since I was 17 years old. So over 30 years now, working. I'm from the South, from Charleston, South Carolina originally, and I traveled the Southeast for many years, opening restaurants for a corporate restaurant chain. And then I settled in Fort Myers, Florida for 7 years before I moved out here. I've been here 15 years now. Love it, would not want to leave under any circumstances. So this is definitely home for me forever.
Awesome. All right. So, there we go. Whoops. So the first topic or question that I wanted to bring up is, in terms of even prior to the lockdown, did you, Chef Lee, see any warning signs in terms of in Maui, or, you know, in terms of even, you know, mainland, that you could see that were affecting Maui? In terms of prior to the shutdown, did you notice any warning signs? Either.
I'd have to say no. I may have been part of a group that was like, okay, there's this sickness thing, there's this flu-like thing out there, but it won't hit us. We'll be okay. We'll be fine. It will go away. I had 4 members, including my husband. My husband runs our bar here. He's our beverage director. I had 4 members of my team out in Las Vegas when the snowball happened. So it was quite stressful. We had a lot of corporate events going on at the time, and we executed what we could. Our numbers started falling on our corporate events, and it was kind of the, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
And then March 15th, my people flew back from Vegas, and I had already at that point made the decision that we would be closing Sugar Beach until the foreseeable future, because
Wow.
we had everything was starting to cancel. And on the 14th of March, I knew we were in for something that none of us was prepared for.
Wow. And the same thing goes from me to your point. I didn't see any warning signs. I mean, prior to that, I felt like we would be good, and I was still getting inquiries. I was still doing things. Matter of fact, the week before we actually shut down, I was actually in Kauai doing a wedding. And so it was just like, I was still, you know, kind of business as usual. Yes, there were rumblings, you know, kind of in the background, if you will. But in terms of the everyday business, I was super busy right up until that point. And then just things just fell apart after that. So, but that's interesting to see your response about that as well. So then the next question had to do about pivoting during the health pandemic. So then once it happened, and I know you had said that you were going to close until further notice, what was that one thing, or maybe several things, that, you know, gave you that kind of like, you know what, I can do this, let me pivot, and here's how I can in that, you know, health pandemic, or in the midst of a health pandemic?
Right. Well, it's easy to kind of get caught up in the, okay, well, what we know as business is done, so how can we shift? And I was definitely caught up in there, okay, what can I do? I can do boxed lunches, I can do takeout dinners, I can do this, and trying to figure out a way to bring money in. Well, I have a venue on the beachfront on Maui. I cannot sell enough box lunches to warrant selling box lunches to pay a mortgage here. So after taking a month, you know, when we were all in the mandatory lockdown, I was doing a lot of Zoom calls. I'm a member of the International Caterers Association, which has been a stupendous resource, not just for work, but for emotional support, to know that everyone is going through this. We didn't do anything wrong. None of us did, who own businesses or employees. Your employers did nothing wrong. And I have to keep telling myself that. But I took that time during the lockdown to really look at my financials, to get in touch with my bank, and to really kind of forge a plan of how we stay relevant. Because I know we're not doing any business. So what can we do to stay relevant? We did Mother's Day deal, dinners, and yeah, which was great. We did a Father's Day grill dinner. And then I started doing the pop-up restaurant. I'd been trying for a month and a half to get it all together. And finally I just said, forget it, I'm focusing on it, I'm going to make it happen. There are a lot of great chefs on this island who have not been able to work and won't be able to work for quite some time. And I wanted, as a community and an industry, for us to keep everyone's name relevant, everyone's business relevant, because we are all suffering right now. So I think that was a big thing for me and a way to pivot. And I think it's also important that you understand if it's not right. Like I said, I thought about doing box lunches. Well, that wouldn't be profitable for me to do. It might be okay for a caterer on the mainland to do that, but it doesn't make financial sense for me to do it. So I had to come up with ideas and throw them against the wall and see what stuck.
Mm-hmm. I love how you said, you know, definitely, you know, I had to take a step back, assess where I was, and come up with all of these great ideas, like you said. But then at the end of the day, is this idea going to be profitable for me? Is this best for me at this time? And I think sometimes, you know, we get frozen in that, in the sense that we let that free us or freeze us into kind of immobility where we're just, you know, stuck. And I love, you know, that you were just like, no, let's keep going and let's find a way and let's just do it. The one thing I do want to share with everyone, and I know a few of you know already, one of the things that I did last year in 2019 is I took an assessment of where I was, and I looked at the events industry in Maui in terms of my services and what I offered, and not in a comparative like who's better, but looked at what are my skill sets, what am I good at, and how do I fit in this industry. And so one of the things that I came away with is I was starting to get a lot of inquiries from other planners for me to come in just from a design standpoint and designing things. And so what I started doing last year, and a lot of you know this, is I started pivoting to do more design staging and also staging for real estate. And so that has been something that's been really keeping me going. And you know, if I'm being honest, well, I'm honest with myself, but honest with you, that's where I really see, you know, the change for me is making that shift. And, you know, I still love doing events. I still love planning them. But I also love the design aspect of it. And, you know, there's nothing greater than when you're in an industry and you have fellow people that do the same thing that you do, but they seek you out for you to come in and help them design something. And so that was a validation for me. And I've been pivoting, and, you know, it's moving along, and I could see that eventually being my number one in terms of source of revenue, and not number two currently. So, so yeah, it's just very important that you kind of take that step back and assess where you are. And so,
and not only that, but Latasha, with you taking a look at where you are in your business and what's going to serve you best, being open to the idea of stepping outside your box and what else can I do? Because we all have so much to offer, and we have picked one avenue. This is my avenue. I'm a chef, I'm a business owner. Well, what else can I do now? just like you chose doing design in real estate. Oh my gosh, that's huge, because we all have value. We just have to change our direction at this point. And who knows, when events do come back, you may segue back into the event industry more.
Exactly, exactly. So no, and thank you just for even touching on that. And it just kind of was like, oh yeah. So I know there was a couple of questions, and we're going to talk about number 3, but preparations for welcoming tourists back. This is huge. For all of you that are on Maui, you know that originally the target date was August 1st, and now it's been pushed back to September, a combination of a few things per Governor Ige. But Chef, if you could talk to us a little bit about what you're doing in terms of preparing, also maybe touch on a little bit in terms of sanitation, you know, what you're doing, social distancing and all those things, and what's working for you or what you see as being viable and working for you.
Absolutely. So I am kind of in a unique situation. I did, like Latasha said, I chose early on when I was on the, the Maui Wedding Hui Facebook page and listening to everybody talk about what we should be doing. Well, I just decided, screw it, I'm doing it. So I contacted the mayor's office and I started a dialogue, and not trying to speak for everybody in the wedding industry, but trying to be a voice for everybody in the wedding and event industry on Maui, which worked. It worked for us because they had no direction for our industry. Well, now we're ready when the state opens. Believe me, it is disheartening. It is hard when when we finally got the date of August 1st, it was kind of, gosh, so far away. And then they extended it to September 1. Yeah, Monday was a bad day for me. And it's okay to have bad days. That was the day I had to call my banker and say, okay, what are my options? What do we do? We have virtually canceled everything through the end of the year because weddings are so different now. From a safety and sanitation aspect, as far as what we have to do, everybody wears masks. You wear masks as employees and team members and staff. Your guests have to wear masks. You have to take an event just like it's you're at a restaurant because you have a caterer there. Now, if you don't want to follow rules and have your people socially distanced and wearing masks, then I can't serve you because I am in charge of not just my own person, but everybody who works for me. And this is about keeping my team safe, all the vendors safe, and the guests safe. So we have to have everybody on board with these rules and regulations. I would say that's the number one most important thing that we have to do as an industry and a community. And then also here at Sugar Beach, I'm in a really good position. I worked with MCNA last week, who's an island destination management company, and we did an event for first responders. We did it because we wanted to see what could be done and what the perception was from guests and attendants. We gave them feedback cards at the end. We invited 75 first responders. We had the location set up. I have these very expensive plexiglass fronts that I'm putting in front of our stations or buffets because nothing can be nothing can be self-serve. You have to have protection in front of all food, and somebody has to serve the food to the guest. There are a lot of details that have to be touched on where food service is concerned, but bar service as well. People can't crowd the bars. Everyone is probably aware that California just shut everything back down. We have to be, as an industry, strong and cohesive so we don't get shut back down.
Yes, totally agree. In terms of anything like hand sanitizers and stuff like that, from your venue perspective, what are some things that you're doing, in terms of when the guests come to you and they go to the bathroom, how does all that work for you and your venue?
So what we do, if you have an event here at Sugar Beach, there is a protocol sheet that is sent out to the client, and hopefully they send it out to all the guests because there are rules to follow. When guests arrive on site, we do take their temperature. Not only guests, but when vendors arrive the day of, anybody on site, we have a safety sanitation person who is hired for the day, and they temp everyone who comes in. We have sanitizer stations leading into the building. We have sanitizer stations in the bathrooms. We are following CDC guidelines, Maui County guidelines, and Hawaii State guidelines. Everything that's a touch surface in the venue gets wiped down every hour. If there are a ton of people going in the bathroom, then it is probably every 30 minutes, or depending on the frequency of use of the different locations. Same in the kitchen. Kitchen staff, now it was set up where you didn't have to wear a mask if you were in the kitchen, but now you do. And that just came out today because there are so many restaurants on island who are not following the rules and regulations. The health department just today put the hammer down on people. So everywhere you go, you should be making sure guidelines are followed. When it comes to setup for an event, you can't have any silverware on the table. You can't have chargers on the table, glasses on the table. There can be nothing that somebody would possibly touch and somebody else would put in their mouth or touch. Nothing can be on the table. So it is changing the look of events. Dancing. There is no dancing right now. Only in groups of your family kind of pod or your family group, and that's it. So it really is so much more than just social distancing and sanitizing. The entire look has changed.
No, I mean, you are just spot on with everything. Even for me, in terms of how I'm preparing the clients that I have for this year, even when I'm talking to clients now in terms of booking for, next year and beyond, we have the conversation up front about COVID-19. And, I don't know what's going to happen next year, but I still have to be, conscious of that and talk with them. So I have a guideline sheet that we cover, and we talk about those things, and we talk about, logistics in terms of, for my own staff, from a planning perspective, taking the staff's temperature, when they check in before they even get on site, making sure I check their temperature, making sure that, I have extra gloves, or an extra, mask. So in case something were to happen, even, having those kind of things and being prepared for that. And, and how am I going to, offset that cost with the client, or is that something I'm going to, take on? So it's just a lot of things that you have to keep in mind. And then the other thing is, contract chasing. One of the things that I do is talk to my clients about, not that we want to, be a negative Nancy or anything, but we have to prepare for the worst, possible scenario. And so, I have like a spreadsheet, an Excel document that I send to them. And I have a planning pod that I can also send them, kind of a template, but just all of the information according to CDC in terms of if something were to happen, what information can we send on the ready to, our local Maui County, or, any government agency, or that would come to me as the planner and say, hey, how do we get in touch if someone does contract COVID-19, within one of the events that I have, how can we do that speedily? So, even in that process of planning for the wedding, that's part of my process now, is saying, hey, we need to make sure that we have all this data that we collect, nothing in terms of, things that would go against anybody's rights or anything private information, but just basic information that contract tracers will need. And you just have to make sure that you have that already. And so, if somebody says I need it, I can send it at the click of an email, as opposed to like scrambling and trying to get it at the last minute. So thanks for that. In terms of anything else, in terms of words of wisdom, best practices, things that, you guys, are doing that works well for you, anything that you can share with us and the others, and then we'll open it up for Q&A.
Right. I can tell you, my philosophy on this, none of us wanted this to happen, but I think this is a great time for our community, the event and wedding community, to come together and work well together. I have met with several caterers with whom I haven't had a lot of contact with, but they're brothers and sisters now. We are doing whatever we can to make our industry come back. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about us as an industry being strong and letting the mainland know this is where you want to come to get married. Now, I will also tell you that all of the people on the mainland in my International Caterers Association that I'm on, I have heard nothing but horror stories about events. People are not social distancing. They are not obeying regulations and rules. They are putting people in danger with the number of cases that's out there. We are very safe right now. We're in this little bubble on Maui, and I know I'm lazy about it because I know nobody here has it. But when we open those doors and people start coming back to our island, we have to shift the way we think, because the takeaway for best practices is to be diligent and require the mandates that are set up for us, and people have to follow those.
Awesome. So I want to open it up to questions. Naomi, I know you had a question, so you want to state that if it wasn't covered or any follow-up?
I guess as a food vendor, what are some methods to go from buffet style to individual? Would it be to pre-plate them? And you mentioned a cover. And so here on Maui, is that currently, do you need to, at Costco, those plastic covers, is that kind of what is needed to separate the staff with a table, or what sanitation equipments are needed currently on Maui?
Okay, I'm not sure. I'm going to show you a picture. Can you sort of see that? That's a plexiglass that we had made that goes in front of a station. So it protects the server or the attendant and the guest. The food is not able to be breathed on or touched by a guest. Oh,
I turned off my share so they could see it, so hold on.
Okay. Oh, it's so bright. Oh.
And is that plexiglass? Yeah, I was able to see it on your phone. Is that all enclosed around the table?
Yeah, it's in front of, and then there are some smaller ones on the side.
Okay, so just the front and the side.
Correct. So that way the server or the attendant can easily get through. And there's a larger one. We had one that's 6 feet. And then there's a hole cut out in the middle so that we can pass the plate through that hole.
Oh, wow. And where do you order a plexiglass like that?
Yeah, that's orders or made.
Yeah, I got it from Travis. Travis owns TKL Events, and he did all of my plexi for me. It is quite expensive, and it is definitely an investment. But because you can't do self-serve anymore, the idea of the buffet for the foreseeable future, that's my other phrase I hate the most, pivot and foreseeable future. But the idea of the buffet is gone at this point because everything has to be served to a guest. I think the important thing to remember is they're not allowed to touch anything. They can't touch salt and pepper shakers and then you put them back behind your bar. They have to have everything individual, because if they touch it and then you touch it and then you give it to the next person, now you have just given COVID to the next person. So disposable, everything disposable too, as much as possible. That's being requested.
Yeah, okay, including condiments like individual packs.
So just to plug in really quickly, TKL events, Travis is amazing. Travis
Yes.
is phenomenal. So I know we were prior to this going to be working on some stuff with Four Seasons, and hopefully we'll get back to that. But Travis is amazing, amazing. So
And the Four Seasons was actually the GM and a few of their employees were actually at our first responders event.
oh,
And
cool.
they are looking at purchasing the plexi shields that we had made, because it's not your old school sneeze guard where you used to go to the buffet, you know, and it would protect you that way. It's something contemporary and it's still inviting.
Anything he does to me is amazing.
Okay.
So
good
do you have any follow-up questions, Naomi?
No, that was great information. Thank you so much. More investments for us.
I know. And I would tell you, Naomi, if you have any further questions, if there's anything I can offer you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly. I'm more than happy, because I want us all to be on the same page. And there are some really rotten things going on right now. That's why the health department came down so hard on everyone. And I don't want that to happen to people. We all work too hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Got it.
Any
Thank
other? Oh, sorry, Naomi, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying thank you so much, Chef Lee.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Comments? Takeaways?
Well, you covered it beautifully. Thank you so much. It was a great take for me, for sure.
You know, I think the most important thing is you own your emotions. Don't be upset at yourself because you get sad. It's the COVID roller coaster that everyone's calling it. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be happy. You can have all of those emotions. And most importantly, it's okay to have hope, because we will get through this. It's just not going to be how we all planned it. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we all just have to have faith that we can get there.
That's awesome. Courtney, anything you want to ask from an event standpoint as it relates to what you guys are doing or trying to do at Big Brother, Big Sister? I know you guys have done a lot of virtual things, but any questions? I'm sorry if I'm putting you on the spot. You can spank my hand when you can actually touch me.
No, I don't think so. We don't really have anything planned in person anyways for the rest of the year. And, you know, we used to have something once a quarter, and none of that really happened this year. So, yeah, I guess I was just kind of trying to see what we can do to plan. Like, is 2021 even foreseeable, I guess, you know, like, and I even have a friend who has the wedding scheduled for March, but I don't know I don't know what that's gonna look like, and I'm a bridesmaid, so I'm just a little hesitant, like, okay, what are we, you know? So yeah, but no questions, but I appreciate all the just the information you were sharing. It's good to know just all those little details of you know, I think even just being able to relate it to our office environment and things like that, and it was just neat to see your creativity come through. I like looking at that kind of stuff. So thanks, Chef Lee.
So I do have a question for you. So what advice or recommendations for people that are like me, that are on the planning side, from your perspective in terms of your view of where you sit, what would you say, what would, I guess, words of wisdom and then any guidance that you can give planners like myself during this time and then kind of dealing afterwards?
Well, we do have an in-house planner, so
Mm-hmm.
I completely get where you're coming from. And the question that I ask planners, we had a venue meeting, so a lot of the resorts and a couple of the venues came here to Sugar Beach last week, and we talked about what we need from a venue standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I say to people. I own a venue and I own a catering company. let's take those apart and put them in two separate piles. I, as a business owner, am not willing to relinquish the control of keeping my team safe to somebody else. So as a planner, and this has been a question from planners, well, is it my job as a planner to enforce social distancing, to make sure all of the requirements are being met, people are wearing masks? Yes, it
Yes,
is your
it is.
job as a
Yeah.
planner.
Mhm.
It is not just fall on the catering team or the venue.
Mhm.
We all have to take responsibility, because it comes down to liability at the end of the day. And if you just want to get to brass tacks, take the emotion out of it. If I put a server at an event, at a wedding with 50 people, and nobody is making them wear masks, and I have a server that gets COVID, guess who's getting sued? Me, because I did not protect them. I put them in an environment that caused that to happen.
Right.
So when you want to like separate it all out, that's bottom line what we have to protect ourselves from as business owners and managers and higher ups. We have to make sure that we are diligently taking care of people. And that means everybody in that, all the vendors involved at events need to make sure they're protecting each other.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so happy to hear you say that because, you know, I've been talking to a lot of planners and I'm meeting with Darren next week, you know, just from a coordinator perspective. And that's one of the things that I did take the time to do, like I'd mentioned earlier, is put a protocol together in terms of what I'm going to be doing, you know, in terms of even just questionnaires, you know, that I have for the people that I do hire, subcontract to help me in terms of the setup or just overseeing any event in terms of, you know, not, you know, divulging any personal information, but just, you know, have you traveled in the last, you know, umpteen days, you know, have you been around someone with COVID-19, and making sure that I do my due diligence to have that documentation. So if in the event something were to happen, you know, not that I can prevent anything, but making sure that I do, like you said, my due diligence to mitigate anything and just be above board and very transparent with my clients about what I'm doing. And then, you know, just having, you know, the sanitizers, the masks that I mentioned, I have all of that stuff in my inventory now because, you know, I just want to make sure that I'm doing my part and I don't fall down on my responsibility.
Right. And can you imagine being at an event where somebody says, we really wish you wouldn't work so hard to keep us safe?
Exactly. Exactly.
No.
No one's going to say that. No one.
Yeah, they will always want us to keep them safer. They may not recognize it at the time, but at the end of the day, they want to be as safe as we do.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Is there anyone else that has any follow-up questions, anything, any comments? I want to start with just saying thank you so much, Chef Lee, for just even being gracious enough to lend us an hour of your time and just your expertise and your
my
wisdom.
pleasure.
You know,
My
I really
pleasure.
appreciate that. I did record this, so, you know, if you want a copy of that, just let me know. I'll download it and give it to you or whomever that wants to have a copy of this. But I just cannot say thank you enough for everything. Thank you for everyone that joined and you know, sacrificed a few 60 seconds of your, or 60 minutes of your time. So I really appreciate that. But before I do, Chef Lee, please put a plug in again for your pop-up restaurant. And then also I want to do that giveaway.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So right now we're doing this Friday, tickets are sold out for tomorrow, but next Friday we're going to be doing a pop-up restaurant, and it is showcasing different chefs on the island. So it's not me, I'm not even doing a course tomorrow night. My pastry chef is. I get to be out front and talk to everybody. But there are so many people not working, and these chefs want to cook for people. So we're just getting everyone together and we're having a good time.
Awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to do my raffle. So let me share my screen again. And give me a moment because I buried it in all my stuff. Can you see that? Okay. And then I think I have one more name to add. All right, so we ready to spin to see who the winner is? Oh,
Yay! No.
Victor! Yay! So Naomi, I will reach out to you. You are the winner of the ticket. So